Kidnapper analyses of sorts. It's been a while, but Tshwarelo for disappearing. Sometimes you have to just process things in order for you to grow. Ngotle hantle hole. You need to take these breaks away sometimes. Hey, I know the last time I made a video, I was talking about, hey, it was streamer every day. Yeah, letlampona, Mr. Consistency. Ish, munna, mafet. But anyway, I'm back. And I want to continue to talk to you guys. This topic that we've been on, yeah, sit. I think, as kinza get like a whole, the more kibona, who we are as people is really dependent on our culture, because our culture defines us. Give me 1 second, got to connect this thing. Reke mute, ke tla kgutla lo lona. Yeah, so Bafethu, this thing in between sits or kapa culture, it will haholo because you can only go as far in life as your culture, and you are no better than your culture. So culture is like into a Bafethu. We can't ignore it. We can't act. We can't act as if sits or doesn't matter. It matters because it says a lot about the people, Antoine. So if culture yalona is a culture of degeneracy, kapa, a culture that doesn't respect molao, rules, regulations, you as a people are not going very far. If anything, if we're not you're going to have to break outside of the culture and do it through other people's cultures. But to Belung Hore, they've taken the time to build the culture tsabona, to develop the culture tsabona. And that's just the reality of it. Whatever. So this thing, yes, it's for some reason. And I'm not sure why, because culture should give you a great sense of pride in yourself, in your people, your customs, your belief systems. It should never be something that makes you feel ashamed if you've taken the time to develop yourselves as a people. Culture is what unifies people. Culture is what helps give a vision, a goal, a purpose for that group of people to work towards. Ntlele culture, you are just a group of people on autopilot with no real sense of direction, with no real sense of purpose. And that's very scary, to be a society that's on autopilot. No ka shebisisa sharp sharp batho ba batsho re na le bothata ba who build the culture tsa rona, because for some reason we've abandoned that responsibility of developing ourselves and our communities. It can't be that everything about our lives is somebody else's fault, guys. Somewhere, somehow, at some point, we have to dust ourselves off and say, now is the time for us to begin building towards a future that we want. Re ipona re ya kae in 50 years' time? Kapa re ke re ipona re le kae in 50 years' time? In 20 years' time? Re ipona re le kae? As a culture, as a society of people. Those questions are important. If you can't see yourself and your culture in the future, it means halina plan. And if listener plan, you're going to succumb to whatever culture, dominant culture is around you, or you're going to blame the culture, the dominant cultures that are around you for your failures in developing yourselves. Slavery is not unique to Africa. Slavery happened everywhere, all over the world. Nations found a way to bounce back. Korea was enslaved to Japan. And after receiving their independence, Japan had wiped out everything, their language system, their culture. The first thing they did after their independence was to regain their culture, their writing system, their alphabet, their language, because language is the foundation. You're not going anywhere in this life and in this world as a society, as a culture, if you don't have a language system, a writing system. Every nation has its own alphabet. They don't all use the Roman alphabet. That's more for like the European nations, Badisa. But if you go to Asia, they've got their own writing systems. Very proud of their culture, of themselves as a people. Why are that our own writing system that we've institutionalized and made a part of our identity and our culture, and institutionalized it in business, in school, in our towns and cities, so that it's not just language, but it's actually part of our everyday lives. To do these things. Building culture, the ethics, the morals of what we stand for. Practicing our culture with a sense of purpose. Not this fragmented practicing where some people do, some people don't, and it's all over the place. Some people ascribe more to white culture in the Southern African region. They ascribe more to white culture. They have assimilated white culture, and they find no joy in that because I say culture yabona. You'll never be at home there. You'll never be at peace. I say hi. You'll never be integrated into white culture, Bafet. No matter how hard you can send your kids to the best private Model C schools. Babuek got the perfect English accent. They will never be integrated into that culture and into that society. Le Afrikaans, le kabua perfect Afrikaans. They don't consider you an Afrikaner. They don't consider you a part of them. You can be colored and speak perfect Afrikaans, hang out with white people, play rugby, do all the things that they do. You will never be one of them. You'll always be an orphan looking for a home, a place to belong. And I think about Tatabawa today is that they don't have a sense of belonging because they've abandoned building, developing, and evolving their cultures. Cultural practice now is like an optional thing. It's something that's not taken seriously. Through the lens of the modern world, the modern landscape, and we don't see our cultures fitting into the modern world. So we assimilate more le culture yamahoa, which at times makes us come across as if we don't have confidence in our own people to develop ourselves, to develop our societies. Mabur, they developed themselves after the Anglo-Boer Wars, obviously with a lot of help from the British. But they had a goal, they had a vision. They invested in schools and universities, right? They were also given a lot of freebies, but nonetheless, they used what they got, they built, developed themselves. And of course, apartheid was, that was just madness. But as far as them having the self-determination to say, we don't just want to be swallowed up in British culture, we want to have our own thing and develop it. And they worked towards that. The Chinese, same thing. The Koreans, same thing. The Indians, colonized by the British, just like us, colonized by the British. But their official language is not English today. They have their own languages, their own systems, their own religious beliefs. You can say what you like about them, but they've preserved their culture and it's very distinct. Rona batho ba batsho, what have we done with our independence all across Africa and the diaspora? What language system have Africans or black people developed, Yabon, and institutionalized it, where they are educated in that language? Till this day, African countries are still being educated in the French and English and all the colonial languages using the same institutions that were built during the colonial era. When do you, Batwaba, to build your own schools, build your own universities, establish your own cultures, your own community, strong community with strong principles, strong tenets that people follow and respect, that are constantly evolving and being modernized as we also become modern? Culture is something you work at. You don't just abandon Setso Sahau and just blame your elders and say, but this thing is outdated. Okay, if it's outdated, let's work on it to bring it up to speed so that it can benefit us. There are many customs and practices that we have in the modern world. Customs and traditions that need to be revised, need to be looked at again to see, where can the improvements be? But unfortunately, batho ba le challenge ya organization, organizing ourselves. Whether it's a small community, a neighborhood, a town, we have a hard time organizing ourselves. Other cultures are very, very well organized. Oftentimes, people from other cultures, as mohlala in their communities, their neighborhoods, ka 5, 6 or 7 ba jogga. It's like a community initiative that they've done. They jog together. I'm not saying there are black people that don't do that, but I'm just saying majority of the time, this organization from other cultures where they come together, they work together, these people, they support one another. One of the Pakistanis, the Indians, Ethiopians, Somalians, South Africa, Nigerians, they have each other's backs, they work together. Of course, these people, but I think in is that this thing of coming together as a culture and working together to promote each other, they can have businesses next to each other, they don't have a problem. They sell together, they support one another. And I think South Africa, as much as we're quite united, we don't have problems with tribalism. Mare, when it comes to working together, even marriage is now a problem for us. It's like for some reason we can't do things together. And Skalabala, the landscape of South Africa is very much divided into different homesteads culturally. Free State ke Basotho, KZN ke Mazulu, Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Maxhosa, like that, so on and so forth. So we've had our own space for Nakwetelele to develop ourselves. And we can't blame government for everything. Maburu are a prime example of, even if the government is not delivering, to figure things out and bring solutions. Of course, they have a lot more capital to work with. But Skalabala, even places like Orania, when they bought that land and they started developing and building, look how much development has come out of Orania from the past 30 or whatever, 20 years. Some towns, and locations have not developed as much. Not because Botswana Chelet, but because we don't think to come together, combine our resources to see how we can build a better community for ourselves and for our futures. So Basotho, South Africa le Lesotho, at some point, Bafet, we can't have excuses about the oppressor, the colonial what anymore. We must take it upon ourselves to say, guys, first we must unify this Basotho culture, because we are divided by a border. We're divided by what they call countries. Although I don't ascribe to the notion or idea of countries. I believe in cultures. I believe in nations. That's what defines us. The borders, we understand the colonial history behind it. But I believe more in communities. I believe in Basotho, Bapedi, Mazulu, Maxhosa. I believe in the South African cultures. We've come a long way. We've fought many different fights, and I think now we owe it to ourselves now to start figuring out how we can work together within our tribes first. We can trade later down the line, but I think it's important for us to have a few decades of seclusion within our cultures of just developing our identity, our writing system, creating institutions. And then down the line, we help each other here and there to make sure that we're all developing at the same speed, same pace, that nobody gets left behind, especially the smaller tribes like the Tsonga, who don't have as big a population. We must be able to provide support for the other cultures as well. But I think it's important, South Africa, we shouldn't get too caught up in this idea of rainbow nation, what. I think we will develop a lot faster within our communities culturally. And then from then onwards, we're happy to see how we can further assist each other and trade together and do into because we are the majority. And I think it's something we should use to our advantage. But personally, I think there are no more excuses for why we cannot develop. Why can't we build schools, Buffett? Yes, I know there's a lot of red tape that involves the government, but there's means and ways around these things, guys. Sometimes if you really want to develop really badly, you can't do everything by the book. Sometimes you got to find loopholes. You got to find ways around to make things happen for your people so that we develop. So, I just wanted you guys to really just think about this thing, give it some thought. Why have we not developed? I'm not just talking about Black South Africans, Black people all over the world. The same thing, colonization, makgoa. Other nations were also colonized. They found a way to recover. They built their culture. They built their language system. They built institutions. They turned their culture into something institutional, not just a language or something we celebrate on Heritage Day. Something real, something tangible, and something of value. Lorona, we can do the same thing, and I believe in us. I know we can. Basotho. Basotho are my people. I believe we can do it. Bapedi, I know we can do it. Batswana, I know we can do it. Mazulu, I know we can do it. Maxhosa, Bapedi, Mavenda. We can do it, guys. There's nothing stopping us. We need to get the psychological barriers out of our minds. No matter how difficult it is, no matter how much red tape, we must persevere and persist until we achieve our goals. What is your vision for your culture? What is your vision for your nation? For some of us in our cultures, we have kingdoms or kings and monarchs that are not serving the people. We must challenge these higher ups and these authorities, Buffett. We must challenge the kings and the monarchs who are not representing the people, who are puppets, right? Or we find another way to rebuild ourselves outside of the monarchs and outside of that conventional or traditional leadership. To say, this is how we are going to build ourselves. This is how we see ourselves. The people of Oranje are Afrikaners. They're developing themselves according to Afrikaans culture in the same way that the Afrikaners in the Western Cape, the Afrikaners in the Free State, they're all working. They believe in this culture so much that even if they're not all necessarily in the same town or the same province, they're still able to build because the culture they've cultivated has given them enough in terms of principles that allow them to progress as a people. Jale, what's stopping us here? We can do the same, Buffett. Instead of waiting on the monarchs or presidents or politicians, Rona as communities, and say, guys, where do we need to develop? We cannot allow the government to make a mockery of our existence and demean and belittle us and take away our dignity with the way they treat us. Poor service delivery, sewage water spilling all over the towns and streets. We have to come together to say, how can we build? You know, some of you, every single week, sometimes twice a week, service. Some of you don't even have time to spend with your families because you're so dedicated to what you call the things of God. But now, what's stopping us then as a community, as a culture, to say, guys, every week so that we can invest in sanitary pads for the young teenage girls or a form of security for the community, right? Install boom gates screen everybody that comes into the group. We must know the number plates. We must know you by name. Or now, man, what are you here to do? We must make our community safe. Do something. Let's think. Let's use our brains and figure out solutions that are affecting us in our communities, Buffett. Sometimes we'll protest. I'm not saying I'm against protesting, but sometimes we have to also use other strategies to make our voices heard or to make an impact. So I'm pleading with us, as a community. Let's come together within our tribes, within our cultures. This is not tribalism, by the way. I'm saying we can develop faster with the people that we speak the same language with and have a good understanding with, culturally, because we're more aligned. Yes, there are many similarities across our cultures, but I think we have to first build ourselves interculturally. And then after that, we can start coming together to see how further we can go. So I'm not promoting tribalism. I'm speaking more in the sense of we've abandoned our cultures, our beautiful cultures with really rich history and heritage. We've abandoned them. We don't write, Buffet. We don't write books in our indigenous languages to preserve our story, to tell our story. Not this thing of us publishing books in English and adding to the library and literature of a culture that we really have no business getting involved in. It's not our culture. We can learn from different cultures, of course. But what are we doing to build a library of literature and academia in our indigenous languages, our mother tongue? Many of our languages are dying because the youth can't speak them fluently. I'm guilty of that myself. I'm not that great, I'm trying. Because, like I said, because we saw that it can give us an economic advantage to be associated with culture. I'm not saying that that necessarily was a mistake. I'm just saying that why did we neglect also building our culture and gaining inspiration from other more developed cultures and saying, guys, let's train our teachers so that they can become a valuable asset within our communities and provide education. Education is everything, Buffett. Investing in the youth means that you guys have a future. Look at our youth. It's a negative culture, bad culture that is not conducive to anything good in the future. Hence why every year we're seeing more moral decay from Rona to Babat. On top of the infiltration of other cultures coming in, like the Igbos and the Nigerians, these terrible cultures that are just complete degenerate cultures. These people have failed to build anything significant in their own countries, but South Africa to contaminate us with their ways and their way of thinking. And this is why it's good. Operation Dudula, stand behind you 100%. We must stand up against these leeches that refuse to go through the pain of developing their cultures and their countries. So, Lorwana, in order for us to avoid being cowards like them and running away from South Africa, we must go through the pain of developing ourselves, our cultures, and evolving them instead of saying, this culture is outdated. That's the wrong mentality. If it's outdated, bring it up to speed, make it relevant. We have many cultural practices that don't contribute in a significant way in helping us progress as a people. We do all these different things, but at the end of the day, to progress as a society. I love Lebollo, I love our practices, but we need to see tangible results coming from that. Lebollo ke skolo. Ke skolo. Sometimes, but via 6 months, 3 months, ke skolo. You're supposed to come back with a certain level of education. It's like a type of initiation into manhood. I think it should be amalgamated together with military service. Lebollo needs to be something that you do for 1 to 2 years. You root bonna within your culture so that how it's all more you understand the responsibilities how only monna and what is expected of you from your society to produce. You must be innovative. You must understand farming. You must understand tech. You must understand cultivating and taking care of your family. You must understand self-defense. You must know how to fight. You must understand military strategy. You must understand the core values that make us who we are and how to protect them. Anyway, Buffett, I video I hope you something. But ultimately, I'm just saying, let's stop the excuses. I believe in us. Let's help about a whole Basotho because we have the capacity to do it. We are a very intelligent group of people with high emotional intelligence and empathy. But Basotho for me is like the best. It's top notch because we're very kind and soft-hearted people, but at the same time, because we can also get aggressive. We have such amazing qualities. He was a diplomat. He was a strategist. Hence why we have the Basotho nation today that still exists. Because of the decisions that he made at a time of war and pressure. We carry those things with us till this day. Basotho, they're very diplomatic. They're very good with words, very good negotiators, particularly at negotiating peace, but also can be very violent depending on the situation. We're the type of people that and we can understand. That understanding. Now I'm saying, guys, let's add more to these already amazing values, and build even more, build even further, and see ourselves and our culture thriving in the future. That's why I wanted to use this picture. I really love this thumbnail. It's a beautiful picture. But it gives you a sense, this idea that we can keep our traditions, but also modernize certain aspects. Panama Mokorotona has like these little lights that are coming out of it. That's the next step in the design. Whoever's a designer, feel free to use this. Upgrade our culture, make it better. Give us interesting things. Add new additions. Liduko Bazarona can be glow in the dark. Or bona ka re di-car lights, re na le di-car light ko mokorotlong wa rona kapa seana marena sa rona. So ke batlile ke re seana marete. Bafethu seana marena. Wa nthola ke reng? So bafethu, I believe in us. Ke na le tshepo rona Basotho. Let's fix our mindsets to focus more on building rather than complaining about what the white man is not giving us. Let's build, Bafethu, and let's work together. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to tune into my channel today. Please give me a like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, All right, guys,